Please, can you introduce yourself in 5 minutes to our audience? Maybe Jean-Baptiste, you start.
Hi, so my name is Jean-Baptiste. I'm the managing director of IFA Paris. IFA Paris is an international fashion school that has 3 campuses, one in Paris, one in Istanbul, one in Shanghai. We deliver mainly fashion design and fashion business undergraduate and postgraduate programs, but we also have a department that focuses on fashion sustainability and a department that focuses on fashion tech.
Hi, I'm Lucille. I'm a CSR performance manager at Atelier Marais. Atelier Marais is a sourcing agency from Paris. We were created in 1947, so quite a long time. And we're doing design up to production, even delivery for many fashion brands in France, UK, and US. We work on sustainability since 5 years now, so pretty advanced. For me, I'm working in the development part, so it's about eco-sourcing, innovation research. I'm doing like an eco-sourcing guide. I am also working on traceability to conform with the AGEC law, and I'm training all our teams and all of suppliers and partners about traceability and our CSR strategy. I'm also working on the digitalization of our supply chain management, and now we're doing 100% traceability on every production up to the rank 5 or 4. We have more than 80% of our products that are in our collection that are certified or sustainable. And we are certified FSC, GRS, RWS, GOTS, RCS, OCS, and also Ecotech Standard 100. So a lot. And about me, I have a bachelor in fashion design from ESMOD Paris, and also an MBA in management and marketing in fashion and luxury. And I also did a master in ENAMOMA. It's a program within PSL University, a really great program. So if you want to check out, it's a good idea. And I'm also working on a regenerative platform to help fashion actors to implement in their supply chain a regenerative solution in the long term.
So my name is Eloise. I'm a consultant in a consulting firm specialized in fashion and luxury, which is called Extend Business Consulting. Our particularity is like we are all from the brands, so we used to work in those brands that we are working from now, they are helping now. We work on different topics. The main topics is first the construction of the offer, the construction of the collection. Then we work on all the topics related to CRS, CRS linked to the project or CRS linked to the company. And we're also working on how to handle the data in order to improve the performance in the collection. And obviously this topic is very much linked to CRS and to the construction of the offer as well.
Hello everybody, I'm Nienke Steen, Global Lead Apparel, Textile and Footwear for the Cradle to Cradle Products Innovation Institute. We hold the one and only product circularity standard in the fashion space. So we believe it's the thing to do to look for how you can develop a circular product because it's requested by law. Consumers are really looking for it. It's really the thing to do to solve the waste problem. But we have a very holistic approach. So we don't look at circularity only, and I think there are some slides maybe that can be presented behind me because the visuals are even more clear than when I explain it in words, because this holistic approach includes that we look at all chemicals that are used in processing. We also look at climate, so energy input, emissions, water use, how water is released to the environment, and we also have requirements on social fairness. So if you have this label, you have everything that your client wants and that the environment needs and people in the world that create garments for us. So I really believe that this third-party validation is really needed in this space of upcoming legislation where you need to have a third-party validation to make a green claim. So This shows, for example, in short, the cycles where other companies in our program work with. It's or the biological cycle or the technical cycle, or it's a combination of it. For example, this dress is a cradle-to-cradle certified gold dress. It's made by CNA, and it's totally made out of organic cotton. Not only the fabric, but also the thread. Also, they didn't use any label. They just printed with ecological inks inside the information that you need to show to your consumer. So it's a whole a package, a new way of thinking of how we should create products to end the waste problem and to make products in a very responsible way and to have positive impact instead of negative. So we're against less negative, we're really pro-positive. And the last slide, and then I give the mic, is that we really believe also in the commercial benefits of developing this circular economy with textile products, because you can earn a lot of money on different moments on the lifetime of a garment. You cannot only sell it and then stop. You can also offer services to repair, to refurbish. You can also look at remanufacturing in collaborations with your manufacturers. And in the end, you can recycle fabrics. And we have right now a resource problem. So it's really economically interesting to look at the reuse of our resources. So this is where I will end the introductory part, but then you understand very well what we're aiming for. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me here. I'm Dennis Tiede from Triple Tree Solutions. I'm into the textile and fashion supply chain since more than 30 years. I formerly worked as a buyer for big companies, sourcing from Asia a lot. I'm specialized on the country Pakistan, and our company is based in Lahore. We come from an operational background, and coming from an operational background also for over 30 years, we have developed IT solutions. So before I enter into any sales pitch here, I want to focus on the focusing on the topic we discuss here. If you want, our booth is right there. I'm happy to give you an introduction about our solutions that we provide, and I'm looking forward to the roundtable now.
Thank you. My first question for you all is issues related to the ecological and social impacts of the supply chain, such as relocation, transparency, and traceability are becoming, you said it, increasingly important. Have you noticed measurable changes and evolutions in the purchasing policies of fashion brands with regards to these issues?
I can start if you want. So our main suppliers are in China, but also in Euromed. And first, about relocation, a lot of demand now are for Turkey, Euromed, Italy, Spain. At least for the manufacturing part, I think the brands want to have the made in Europe, but the other step, they are not really care about it. And about like the relocation in France, we don't have a lot of demand about that. I think because like in France, we know that we have like technical issues and expertise and the main d'oeuvre and everything is really complicated in France, and I think brands know that. So I think maybe a relocation in France is the next step, but like in the future, but like in maybe in 5 years now, it's more about relocating in Europe. And about China, I think there are like still really many fashion brands that want to work still with China because they are like doing a lot of improvement about CSR strategy, and also because like they are less expensive than European suppliers. So yeah, a lot of brands want European supply, but at the end, China is always in the game.
And you are talking from a European perspective.
Yeah.
Of course, so if you would work in China directly, relocation would mean something else.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And also about transparency, I think more and more fashion brands want to have like global transparency at the first. Like when they coming to us and ask for development, everything like that. They want to be sure that will be transparency, and sometimes they want like social auditing before even doing an order. So I think like suppliers really need to have this in mind, that transparency is the key, and we want and the brand want to have like every point about transparency in the advance to be sure they're making a good option. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, please.
Yeah. I'm talking from, let's say, a global perspective. My origin is Turkish. I live in Germany. I work since more than 15 years with a company in Pakistan. So I try to cover it in a holistic way. So coming to your question, yes, in 2023 and 2024, more and more companies are catching up on the OECD regulations, and I have the feeling the higher the pressure gets, the more companies start moving. Of course, there are also companies which are into this already, but the ones which were not into it are waking up and starting to move. And another point is, I have, in some aspects, I have sometimes the feeling that over-regulation can kill agility, whereas in this case, the OECD regulations are needed to make every company understand about their responsibilities. And then I ask myself, how much self-motivated is this happening? Why does it need to be regulated? And then I look into our private lives. If we take care of our family members, we take care of our friends, we look to maintain a good relation, we want everyone doing well, and we are representing certain values. Why are we not representing the same values in our business life? By taking care of, no matter where we are, if we are in Europe or Asia or wherever we are, if a company, a brand, a retailer is doing business with companies in Asia, nearshore, offshore, or midshore, it doesn't matter. I think if we would act in the same way like we are representing our values, or in private life same way like in business life, we would not need any regulations. So this is something where I think it's good what is happening, but it would be nice if it would happen on a self-motivation.
Thank you, very interesting. Jean-Baptiste?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would love to build up on what was said by Lucille and Dennis, actually, because it was very interesting what you said, that the more pressure there is, the more involvement we have from the brand. And I'm going to be the naysayer a little bit here, because I feel also the more creative, so to speak, brands and fashion houses become, and sometimes in the negative sense of the word. Like we heard about, relocation, you were talking about made in Europe as well, and I was just extremely shocked to read a few weeks ago that even something that is so certain as a country of origin and the made in Europe or the made in Italy can also be turned on its head in a way. I mean, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but the recent discoveries about a very famous luxury fashion house from France, without mentioning their name. Same thing happened with a luxury fashion house from Italy as well, where they had a workshop that was set in Italy. And actually this workshop was not following the Italian legal framework, so much so that the workers were overworked. They were in Italy with no papers or illegal papers, just to ensure that this company in particular could produce a bag at a unit cost of around 50 euros that would then resell at a retail price of more than 2,500 euros. So I think there are a lot of efforts that are made by fashion houses, but I think it's also important to see that regulations, although they're restricting, are very important. And if we don't do this work, and when I say we, I would say citizens at our level, to pressure governments to actually act on these specific legal frameworks, we are failing as well.
Yes, definitely. So the legal framework couldn't, if it's not the same for all countries, we are still in the same strategy, right? Because for years and years, the main sourcing strategy was a cost-saving matter. And I remember at school, when we were discussing about it, it was in which country is the lowest minimum salary, right? So if the rules are not the same for all countries, we are not solving anything. So my second question is, what criteria do you think internationally distributed fashion brands should prioritize in the coming years when choosing their suppliers? And what strategies do you see as the best way to reconcile internationalization and CSR? So, to continue on this topic. Please, yes.
Yeah, so I think also to continue the story, so I think it was super cost driven always, and it still is. So it's super hard for sourcers right now to combine it with a huge list of other requirements that we have right now. We want everything to be sustainable, socially responsible. We want a transparent value chain. We want to build relationships at the same time, but at the same time we want to be agile. We want to like switch suppliers whenever needed. So it seems to be conflicting requirements sometimes, and that creates a huge I think understanding between partners, like between purchasers and the value chain partners, to continue their relationship together. And I think we really still need to invest in these relationships. And if you look at nearshoring and reshoring, it's a huge threat also to a lot of, for example, Asian suppliers. For if you look at European countries, for example, that are relocating production locations close to Europe or in Europe, it is a huge threat also for all the workers that are out there in Asia that were used to having all these orders. So I think we need to do it like step by step and be reasonable, and also still value the relationships that are already built. And also looking at the technology that is already there in Asia. We really depend on many Asian suppliers. So I think it's super important to talk with each other. What are the common goals? What are we aiming for? And how can we capitalize sustainability together in this very critical market? Because I think transparency, for example, is really the way to capitalize trust. We need to build a transparency. We cannot just say, yeah, I bought it somewhere in China. You need to convince your consumer now that it's true what you tell. So I think certifications could be a way. Super transparency can be a way, but you need to show more details, and this digital product passport will be coming. So you need to fill in much more data on products very soon.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Yeah, I really agree with what you said. And at Atelier Marais, we work with suppliers in China for like 15, 20 years with the same. And we saw that we can build trust with them and talk about transparency and traceability with them because we have this relationship from many, many years. And they are willing to evolve and to make more effort about that because we built a relationship. And with our recent suppliers in Europe, sometimes, and a lot of times, it's really difficult because we don't know them, and it's difficult to adapt how we can work with them on these CSR issues. So yeah, I think relationship is really like the main things to focus to have a CSR strategy that is working. And I think we don't need to like abandon China because China is doing a lot of effort, and we need to reassure that like if you're doing effort, if you are certified, if you're doing all this social auditing and everything, you will have orders because they have expertise that we don't have in Europe, and relocation is great, but we need to do that in a great way.
Yes, Dennis.
I think in the problem in globalization, and also Corona has shown us how important it is to look into the supply chain and into the sourcing side in a more strategic way. So to move all eggs in one basket is very risky. So it is important that we have a balanced onshore, midshore, and offshore strategy, where we also consider certain kind of dynamics of each country. At the moment, climate challenges are there. So the capacities need to be spread in a balanced way. So just focusing on one part of the world and missing the other part is not working well, because we cannot rely on that every part will continue in the same consistency as it should. So from that regard, I think it is, beside, of course, the CSR aspects that anyway need to be maintained and taken care of, there is the importance there not to focus too much on offshore. It needs to be balanced. I mean, we are in an offshore country, but we think every country has its strength and has its right to exist. And under this aspect, balancing this is the challenge for the brands and the retailers, in a way that it is not always driven by price structure. It needs to be driven in a way to sustain a relationship, to sustain a business in a correct way. There are some examples of companies which are doing this already for decades in a very good way, but there are also companies which are purely price driven, jumping from one factory to the other. And in our group where we are working, this is what we are trying also to convey to our customers, that we say, build up a long-term relationship with your vendors instead of looking on a short-term price. It is relevant to, and this is coming back to the first question again, so maintain the relation in a way that everyone can survive in a good way.
Good, so you are both agree. Do you want to add something, Jean-Baptiste?
Sure, yes. Again, I agree. But I think, yeah, we need to have an approach that is value-driven. Not just, and when I'm saying value-driven, I don't mean in terms of cost reduction, I mean in terms of a human focus at the end of the day. So yes, valuing our partners for their savoir-faire, and also most importantly, remunerating them well for their savoir-faire and their expertise. Like what I really wanted to focus, like the part of your question that I felt was speaking to me, was reconciling internationalization and CSR. And I came across a few months ago a journal on the Harvard Business Review by Professor Roderick, who's actually originally Turkish. And he put together a concept that is called the trilemma of hyperglobalization, stating that you cannot make coexist democracy, national sovereignty, and globalization. There's always a choice that needs to be made. And it seems that governments throughout the world are making the choice of national sovereignty and pushing for hyperglobalization. At the end of the day, democracy is a little bit left behind. And so I feel that when we are talking about continuing working with our international partners because of their expertise in India, in Bangladesh, in China, it is also our responsibilities as stakeholders of the fashion industry to push and influence. So this is wishful thinking, a standardization of, I don't know, remuneration levels. That will be pushing it a little bit, I'm sure, but at least pressure to ensure that everybody that is involved in the supply chain gets remunerated according to their value input in that supply chain. And that's what I think is a crucial point here.
Yeah, and I agree. also. But I think like the suppliers need to make the effort, but they need to not be the only one. Like brand needs to put pressure, but they also need to make effort. And like decent salary will not just appear. They need to do effort. Like brand need to, I don't know, like help suppliers, help them to like focus on green energy, focus on new machinery, like putting investment on that, so that factories and suppliers can also put investment on salary and decent salaries. So I think it's an holistic vision. You need to focus on many points, and brands need also to put an effort.
Yeah, it makes me think about a story in the luxury sector. Quite a few years ago, la Chambre de Commerce has obliged some luxury brands to buy their subcontractor in France to save the know-how.
That's great.
So,
Yeah.
yes, my third question, maybe for you, Héloïse. Faced with today's challenges, intelligent data collection and management is a key success factor. What improvement can fashion players, brands and suppliers alike expect from investment in this particular area?
So we have talked a lot about the new CRS environment, so the new terms of traceability, or how to communicate where your products are produced, where your materials are from, the certification and everything. So that's one part. And the other part, it's a very competitive environment, especially this last year with the inflation, with the economic crisis. The fashion and luxury market is very competing. So in order to be performant and not to fail in this very competitive and legislating environment, you need to know your data. So the data is key. So it's an investment, but brands have to understand if you don't know your data, you don't know what to communicate to your consumer, you don't know what can you improve to be better, to have the best quality, to reduce your lead time, to have the best price and the best margin as well, and also to produce with the least environment impact as possible. So in order to do all of that, you need to know your data. In order to know your data, you need some good tools, so you need to invest. And that's the first thing we're trying to explain to our brand is in order to have CRS strategy, in order to have even a collection strategy, you need to know your data. You need to know your sales, you need to know your consumers, you need to know your markets, you need to know your know-how, you need to know your suppliers, certification, you need to know a lot of things. And for that, you need to have the right tools, so you need to invest. It's not an easy strategy, because you have to be very clear about what you want to do in order to know how you're going to reach that strategy. So with Extend Business Consulting, we really help the brands to know what their strategy are in terms of product, but also in terms of CRS. Then we help them to pick the right tools. And it's not easy because, for example, on the CRR, it's a lot of new tools. So which one are you going to pick? Because you don't even know which one is the best, because first, you don't know all of them. There are so many. They're all new, so you don't really have the perspective to know which one is going to be the best suitable for the industry and the best suitable for your needs as well. So they really need to be advised on that. And once you pick the best tool, you need to understand how you're going to make it work all together, because you have to pick the right tools for your strategy, but also the right tool which is going to work with all of the tools you already have in your brand. So just to sum up, it's very important to collect the data and to use it in order to be the most performant as possible, to have the best product with the best price and the least environmental impact as possible.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and I want to add to this, it's super important also to facilitate the circular economy, because if we don't understand on the product what it's made of, what chemicals are used, what materials are used, you never know in what cycle you could put it. Can it be mechanically recycled? Can it be chemically recycled? Does it need to be detached? Is it a mono material that is used? So for right now, we don't know anything about a ready-made product. What chemicals are used? What dye procedures are used? So we need to include data also to facilitate stimulate the cycling of materials, because that's where we want to end up all, and to really limit our impact and even have positive impact. So that's really important, but also, for example, for economic incentives, because we will have this eco-modulation in place. Very difficult word for if you use recycled materials or materials that are ready for the circular economy, you get discount to place your products on certain markets. For example, in France, in the Netherlands, you already have the EPR in place, where you need to pay a levy per product, like an extra price for a product, if it's not sustainable. If it is sustainable, you pay less. So there will be more and more incentives to do it, not only looking at ethical requirements or reasons, but also commercial reasons. It could be really interesting to add data.
I think it is very relevant. The vision is a smart supply chain. Here at Avantex, we have seen many examples for solutions which are showing how we can act in a smarter way, how we can act in a more sustainable way. I think the digitization is a big help for us to make our supply chain smarter. So what we have seen here with overstock, tracing solutions all around the supply chain, which are already there. I'm just thinking that the humans have difficulties in adopting into the next chapter because they don't know enough about it. The let's say, easy and simple way how we use a smartphone, same and easy it should be to make our supply chain smarter. And solutions are there. It is just something we need to come over the fear of getting into it. We just need to enter it. We need to start with it. And as you also said, the data is there. The history is there. Digitization can help us to learn out of it. AI can help us to learn out of it, that we can make our future more efficient and effective in all aspects, including sustainability, including a balanced way of sourcing. The keys are there already. We just need to take them into our hands.
Oh, sorry. I just need to add something about that. So at Atelier Marais, we're working on traceability and CSR strategy for almost 5 years now. And at the beginning, we just worked with Excel. Like all our data was Excel sheets everywhere about like our data, our suppliers, about everything. And now we work on the data management and the digitalization, like you said, and it's a main point and a big really thing for us. And like now we're working for the traceability with a platform. Our clients also working with some platform for our LCA and decarbonization strategy. We also work with a platform, and all this platform can be used to have the data collection and also to have collaboration with our suppliers and to better work and like in a smart way, like you said. And I think it's really important. But as you said, right now there is a lot of tools and a lot of platform like just showing everywhere, and I think all these platforms are really great, but they need to have like, we need to have interoperability and collaboration and cooperation with every tools, because like brands and suppliers are lost. But like, yeah, digitalization and data management is a big key.
But is it necessary for all fashion players to digitalize their supply chain management? And what pain points do you encounter in this area, especially you, maybe, Eloise? I'm especially thinking about small businesses, maybe independent designers brands.
I mean, in terms of CRS, as long as the law tell you to communicate lots of data, as you will need to have some tools. I mean, you can't spend all of your time and all of your human resources on calling all the suppliers and doing some Excel sheets everywhere. I mean, it's not even efficient. I mean, even if terms of time and money, it's not efficient and it's not working. So I think even the smallest one, and you have a lot of tools, and you have also tools for the smallest company, so maybe you're not going to pick the same tools, maybe some less expensive tools, maybe more simple, but I think at one point you will need to use one tool because there's so many datas. Like you're going to spend all your time and effort on that, and when you're a small company, you can't lose all your time and effort on collecting data. You need to focus on your business, on your product, on your strategy, on how to sell the product, your communication and everything. You can't, especially when you're a small company, you don't have a lot of resources, you can't spend all your time on collecting the data. So I think, yes, you need some tool. And I think the pain points on digitalizing the supply chain is first to pick the right tools. They are not all the same price, so you have to understand, I mean, you know how much you're going to pay it now, but you don't know how much it's going to bring you later. So it's very difficult to explain to the brands. It is a very expensive project because you have the tool, which is expensive, and you have the time that you're going to spend on implementing the tool, all the human resources that are going to work on that project, and that's a lot of time and effort. And brands maybe don't see the value it's going to bring in right now on the short term. Okay, now there is a law, so maybe they don't have the choice, but they don't understand how you can manage your performance as well and how you're going to save money and earn money in the short, long term with those tools. So we are trying really to explain them like, okay, you spend now, but it's going to bring you as well money. It's not only for the law or for the CRS, it's also for cost efficiency. And it's not easy as well to pick the right tools because tools is IT. So we see in the big companies, it's normally the IT department who pick the right tools. But the IT company doesn't maybe know the offer strategy, doesn't know how the collection department works. And so maybe their choice is not efficient. So we really help them to make a dialogue between the collection development, the production team, the marketing strategy, the CRS. Everyone is working in their team, and it's very difficult to have a common objective and a common vision of the company. So we really help them to make the link between the more operational part, which is even the creation team. I mean, normally when you want to implement CRS, you have to start from the scratch, which is the creation. So the artistic director should know about the CRS strategy of the company. She should pick the right material, she should pick the right supplier as well. But for the moment, I mean, ask an artistic director what is the CRS strategy. I'm not sure they will know what to answer, honestly. So you really have to have a common objective, which is not easy in the big brand. And the end of that strategy is the IT department, because they have to pick the right tool that's going to serve all the other team in a common strategy. And so we help them to have the IT vision, which is how you collect the data, but also the operational vision and the strategy visions, like how you're going to use that data. So how you collect it, how you use it in order to serve the common goals and the common strategy of the brand. So
Yes.
This dialogue, I think, is the main pain point in a big company, at least.
Okay, thank you. Nyenke?
Yeah, we noted like two very critical differences in the use of digital tools. So one is the use by the company itself. So then it's about, for example, digital design tools. It could be PLM systems, product lifecycle management systems, ERP systems, and that is in ownership of the company itself, like the purchasing company. So then you can kind of decide what tools to use. You have your own incentives to use it. So then it's easier to make it operational, let's say. But then if you want to use a sourcing platform where you want to get data out of the supply chain, then you depend on incentives for the suppliers to fill it in. And that's where we face a lot of obstacles, because then it's about trust. And your first tier supplier is okay, because he is his direct customer. So, okay, I will fill it in. But then all the tiers behind it are much more critical. You also have language problems around understanding the question. You can download a list of due diligence questions, but they're quite difficult to answer. And it's also a huge list of questions to comply to the OECD and the CSRD rules. So how to explain to a supplier of a supplier of a supplier that they need to fill in a list of 60 questions around due diligence? It's right now impossible. So I think it needs a lot of training, awareness, capacity building to really reach the level of data exchange that we want to reach. And then, of course, AI and blockchain, it will all help us in the future to to do that. But I also listened yesterday to a speaker, and she also said she was a blockchain expert, and she told me also, like, or the audience, it's really hard to say blockchain will be the answer. So it's not yet there, but we are trying and improving with the industry together.
Blockchain technologies are costing a lot of energy too.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So I think with regard to your question, small, medium-sized businesses, do they need to digitize? I think for every size of business, there are many solutions available. Everyone needs to look what is the best suitable. The big companies, the big players are quite on it with digitization. They look for different solutions. There are very agile companies which are permanently scanning the market for different solutions. I think the ones which need to catch up are the mid-sized companies. And in that regard, a big problem, like you already have mentioned, if a company is starting with digitization, they recognize sometimes themselves that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, so the departments are not aware of the dynamics of the other department. And on the other side, it is something positive, because then they, through digitization, they finally start talking with each other and resolving the issues. Another aspect is also, and this is something we see different dynamics. For example, Europe compared to USA. USA is very fast in digital decisions. They are much faster than Europe. In Europe, we are very slow with that regard, that we go into certain details which are maybe not really relevant for the cost saving and operational efficiency. Instead of looking, is this solution providing me 50% advantage in time and money? If yes, let's go for it. So in America, in USA, there is a culture of being allowed to make mistakes and to correct your mistake if you were on the wrong path. Here we are afraid to do mistakes, and this is killing our agility, where we sometimes think too much instead of entering into it. If we see, okay, at the end it is giving me a good advantage, let's try. If this solution is not helping me, after 2-3 years I can switch into another solution. And what we are not aware of is that digitization is not a project, it is a journey. You just need to start it. You just need to start that journey. It is same like how our life is developing further. Also, digitization will develop further. But the later we start with this journey, the more we have to catch up. And one fact is also, if we see what happened in the last 10, 20 years, shows us how fast the things are developing further. So what will happen in the upcoming 10, 20 years will be similar to that what happened in the last 100 years. So the speed is going very fast. And the later we jump on it, it will take more energy to understand that. So yeah, this is the way how I see it.
And about digitalization, so we did that in our company. And so yeah, I think it's main things, and I think it's necessary for all fashion actors. First, because like for transparency, for certification, for verifying data, we need like to have blockchain or many digital tools to have that. Like we can't have like just oral agreements and paper proof for certification, everything like that. We need to have tangible and verified proof, and I think digitalization is great for that. About like how we can implement digitalization, so in our company it took a lot of time. First, I think we need to train, yeah, like you said, the teams, like the design teams, the production team, every teams, because they need to know what we need, and they need to transmit the information then to the suppliers. And after, we need to like train the suppliers, but like really training them. Like for example, we did some meetings, video meeting with every suppliers we had, like in the rank 1, to just explain them our CSR strategy, our traceability tools, our LCA tools, everything. Then our suppliers did the same with them suppliers, everything, etc., etc., etc. And that's how we can have, I think, digitalization and data management in every step of the supply chain, because like, yeah, we need to like really like involve ourselves and for involve them in the strategy. So yeah.
Okay, I have one last question from the IFA school students.
Okay.
It's a bit different from what we had before. It concerns circular textile supply chain. Where are we in terms of recycling mixed textiles? Are there enough resourcing available for sorting textiles? I'm looking at you because maybe you have part of the answer.
Yeah, exactly. So what we see in the textile bins around the world is, in terms of blends, is mainly polycotton blends. That is the largest part. Then we have some polyamide blends with 4 or 5 different other fiber types. And the third is elastan blends with other, also mixed like 4 or 5 key fabrics, mainly cotton elastan. So looking at polycotton, so there are already, I think, at least 4 different recycling organizations that offer technical solutions to recycle polycotton blends. So that's really great because that's our first primary blend that we see in the textile bins. So Worn Again, I think, is an example of an organization that can deal with those kind of blends. And with polyamide, it's just at the academic stadium, so it's more surveys that being done, but not really commercially available. And then the elastan, well, I learned always, if you use elastan up to 2%, it's still easy to get it cycled, but if it's above 2%, it's really hard to cycle. So it's really also in the infancy stage to recycle blends with elastan. So polycotton blends have the biggest chance to get actually recycled, because until now they're sorted out of the system. So you see a lot of sorters are only sorting 100% cotton and 100% polyester for reuse or recycling mainly purposes. So that's a very good development, that we know what to do with blends, because our industry works mainly with blends, of course. Yeah.
And at Atelier Marais, we work mainly with polyester and viscose, mostly viscose actually, and with print. So it's really difficult to recycle them. We don't have a closed-to-loop solution now. What we do is that we take care of our waste, like with insulating material for the building sector, but like to have a closed loop in the fashion industry is really complicated with like mix. And I think all fashion actors need to make investments on R&D and everything like that in Europe. Not just like we need to deal with our waste. We don't need to like just put our waste in Africa, South America, and Asia. We need to put investment in R&D in Europe, because like it's our waste and we need to take care of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Emphasize that we need to deal with the waste that we're just sending outside Europe, put it in Africa somewhere or South America, and they should deal with it. I think we should stop that process. But there will be legislation that we just cannot export it, so it will be solved. Yeah.
Jean-Baptiste?
I would add, let's invest as well in our education. I mean, we were talking about new technologies, for example. You know, I was sitting in one of the Bachelor of Fashion Sustainability jury in their final presentations. I'm a Gen X. I'm learned that I'm also called the Xillennials, or also a forgotten generation. So I loved hearing that. But as a forgotten generation, so to speak, I realized that I will not be the one driving the technological change. Obviously, it's going to be our students that are in schools right now. And I think it's extremely important to develop programs that are tailor-made to these changes. We're talking about blockchain, NFT technology, of course, you know, to improve traceability, you know, given that all the countries agree on homogenization, because it's another big topic. But we also need to train future people in order to be like able to hit the ground running with these new technologies, and they will be the ones that will be able to make improvements and also turn these tools into being more efficient. Because Alice, you were mentioning earlier on like emerging designers. What do? If they have the choice between economic viability and being sustainable, and I understand that being sustainable is something that is planned over the years, so it's something that is progressive, but you know, that's what is happening right now for young designers, and they shouldn't have to make this choice. So also the other question is, how do we help them out?
There are some great examples. I'm thinking about Marine Serre, because she's integrating those aspects at the very beginning of her company's construction, integrating new jobs, new kind of jobs. And also another young brand, the founder was here a few years ago. She's doing lingerie, and it costs a lot of time and effort for young brands to be sustainable, but also if they integrate that dimension at the very beginning, maybe it's easier for them. So we have finished with the question. Would you like to add a conclusion before I ask our audience if they have questions for you?
Yeah, I would like to conclude in a way. I think, referring to your last question, this awareness is increasing more and more. First time I heard about Cradle to Cradle was about 15 years ago. There was Puma having a capsule collection, which was not successful because no one understood about Cradle to Cradle. I think Cradle to Cradle shouldn't be an exception. It should be a base requirement. And it is, let's say, the normal thing is shown as something very exceptional. That should become normal. That should be the minimum standard. Also, if I think of what's going on in the market with the vintage second-hand activities, the new generation is accepting this much more. Also, if I think back in Paris 20 years ago, there were wonderful second-hand shops where designers are coming and buying products which they integrate into their collection. So this is getting, we are on a good path, I think. We just need to stay on it and make sure that it continues in a way that it is growth without thinking is not everything. We need to look how we can move this path in a sustainable way, and considering each other's well-being, also of the climate. And that's why I think the society and the world is moving in a good direction.
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, I think we really need to redefine growth. What is growth? We first saw it as quantity is growth. The more, the better. That was our industry, right? The cheaper, the more products, the better. And that's what you see. Last 15 years, we doubled production, and we almost, not half, but we took a huge part of the price. So we lowered prices, doubled production. That's still what we're doing. And we're all talking about, yeah, we need to do more sustainable and circular, but we're not doing it yet. So it needs to be the new normal. And I understand it takes a huge transition because our industry is so focused on selling a lot of stuff. But maybe we should rethink and add value ad price, but then we add the lowest level. There needs to be a bar somewhere. Like, this is really not possible to sell because it's toxic, or it is hazardous to our planet. So there needs to be a bare minimum, and I think the legislation will pop up, and that will help us to set the bare minimum, because it doesn't come from the industry or from the consumers. And yeah, if the industry wants to see like what's the common new standard, you can, on our website, everything is publicly available. So young designers, all the companies that are interested can just go and download the standard, all the guiding documents. It's publicly available. So you can just watch it, do it, try it, and maybe join our community.
Thank you. And just to illustrate what you said, maybe you can have a look on what the TCBL Association has done in Europe with different companies to recreate another strategy, like circular strategy in Europe with small business units. So it means that there are different ways of making volumes and just the right necessary production you need. It's already a research project, but they have been until the production of a small series. So it could be inspiring too, even if it's still a research project, just to illustrate what you said. Eloise, what would be your conclusion?
I think my conclusion will be, in order to navigate it into our new environment in terms of CSR, which is traceability, and obviously like polluting less and producing less, you need to know all your data, and you need to implement your CRS strategy in the overall strategy of the company. It doesn't have to be two different strategies. I have my economical strategy, I want to sell a lot, but on the side I have my CRS strategy, I don't want to pollute too much. Like, it has to be one common goal, which is producing less, producing better quality, at the better price, obviously, but it's not one or the other, it can be all together. And if it has to come with investment, it has to be done. And if companies want to be helped, I mean, you have some experts, so don't hesitate to ask for help to do the right decision as well, which is going to lead to a big advantage in the next years to come, and to be more competitive as well, and to answer the laws. So.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think we know that we need to make a lot of efforts. And I think we need to do that not alone, but together. I think fashion brands need to collaborate between them, to share data, to make investments and everything. I think suppliers need to collaborate between them, because otherwise they will just lose business. And I think, yeah, the fashion industry need to collaborate, need interoperation, interoperability. They need to just working together, because like we can't just revolution and transform the fashion system without just a big collaboration. So yeah, I think it's the main things to focus on.
Thank you. And Jean-Baptiste?
Yeah, I would say I have a wish, but that kind of echoes what was said earlier on, that we stop using the word scaling, because it's a word that I hate, right? Like, we tell every startups, okay, you need to scale, right? What is the plan at, 3 years from now, 6 years from now? And everybody's expecting them to turn millions and then billions. And let's replace it with mindful growth, shall we? And I think at IFA Paris, that's what we're trying to do with the Bachelor of Fashion Sustainability that we have in place. This is our second promotion. I was sitting, as I was saying earlier on, into the final year juries, and it was really, I'm going to say it, heartwarming to see the new generation being like so open, committed, motivated, to reduce our carbon footprint, to make sure that we put in place some more sustainable practices. And it pushes us as well, educators, as rethinking other academic programs. For example, now we're thinking in the Bachelor of Fashion Design as to how can we change a collection development process, more specifically the inspiration stage, where instead of starting with abstract inspirations and themes, you start with forgotten fabrics, for example. That's a little bit of what you were saying in terms of the business model of Marine Serre, you know, where she uses a lot of upcycling techniques as well. And so redefining the creative process is currently what we're working on.
Thank you. The lingerie brands I was mentioning is Maison Finot. I think I haven't said the name. And thank you for all your testimonies. Do you have questions for our speakers? Yes, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much for such a valuable discourse. And when it comes to sustainability, the entire discussion has been very convincing, quite appealing when we were talking about new parameters and the future strategies. But my question to this worthy panel would be, in this entire journey of attaining this particular level of sustainable practices all around the world, are we to some extent compromising creativity and humanity as well? So, for instance, when we are putting this pressure, maybe I should not be using this word, on an employer to raise a salary up to a certain standard or raise your working conditions to a certain standard, there are chances that that employer would bring those standards up to the benchmark that has been set up. But at the same time, whereas he was paying a salary to 100 people, he might have to go for layoffs than 50 people. Are we not compromising humanity in that case? So one question would be this, and secondly, I would want the comments of the worthy panelists that the beauty of this world is diversity. Every place in the world cannot be as beautiful as Asia or Europe. Somewhere, don't you think we have to maintain a balance? Let Asia be Asia, let Europe be Europe, but it should be a better place for everyone. So, would want your comments on that. Thank you.
Can I? Sorry. I'm sorry, would you mind keeping your microphone actually? No? Okay, gone. It's okay. I just want to make sure that I understood your first question correctly. You were saying, it's great, let's improve the conditions of workers, but then the direct consequence will be mechanical, as in, if we increase the conditions, we increase the salaries, and there would be layoffs. Is that correct? Okay, but how about we consider another variable in this case, that the client itself, fashion house, luxury brand, would actually accept to decrease their margin. The first example that I gave you, and I will not still reveal the company, but I'm sure you all understood who they are, their margin is more than 25 times the cost of production. May I ask where you're from?
Uruj Rizvi, Trade and Investment Counselor, Embassy of Pakistan. So I am from Pakistan, and
Perfect.
that has been the place where I was supposed to be.
Got it. So consider...
You can now understand where I'm speaking from.
Correct. And so that's why I'm saying, like, let's consider the other variables in this equation, because maybe there is a possibility to improve working conditions without having layoffs at a very marginal change for a luxury fashion house that is actually linked to their margin. That's what I wanted to say, because I still keep in mind what was said by the president of the Bangladeshi Worker Association last year. I think she came to the UNESCO. I'm sorry, I'm not able to remember the title of the conference, but she was the keynote speaker, and she made a very impassionate speech at the beginning during her keynote. And she told us, and when I say us, like people in France, why do you need so much? So at the end of the day, like, she held a mirror at our face, and that's what I think I'm trying to do here as well, in terms of holding a mirror to these companies' faces and just say, do you need to have a margin that is in the multiple of 25?
Thank you very much for that question. It is, we have in our group, we are into sourcing. We are having global brands as our customers. So to act sustainable in a way that you also consider fair salaries to the workers does not cost a company more than 5 or 10% of their margins. So sustainability, acting in a sustainable way, is absolutely affordable. It is, sometimes it's making me emotional and very angry if I think of how much discussions are invested in convincing companies about sustainability, and how stubborn they are after their margin. They kill the world for the margin. They don't let others live, and in a way, in a let's say a human way, just because of margin. So that is coming to your point. The balance is not there. The balance is not there. Humanity versus capitalism, and also with regard to our nature, climate. Actually, it is not a big, difficult thing. So coming back to the base, the same values that we represent in our private life, we need to transfer into our business. And we need to open our eyes and not only look into our wallets. So that is something, then every part of the world would be in balance and could have a good living.
Yeah, what's also interesting, so I think fair wages should be like the norm, of course, but I know it's not happening right now, and I know companies are struggling to embed like a higher cost price. But it's indeed a very low percentage what comes on top of it, and I don't think that the supplier can suddenly lay off 50 people, because then he has a big production problem as well. So what do we do with price? I think it's super important to look at how prices are being made. So we can look at margins, but we can also raise prices to consumers. But what we also can do, and I find it super interesting, and I saw it at some companies, is that they take out the sustainability added value, added cost, and they don't multiply that in the price. So normally a fashion company works with percentages. They use a multiplier. So for example, the cost price is €10. They have a multiplier of 5 to cover the overhead costs, to earn their margins. So then the price in the store is €50 for a product, for example. But if the product costs €11 now, because you need to pay more for labor conditions, for salaries or for raw material, then the extra euro is taken out, and it's still €50, but you pay just €1 extra for the sustainability purposes. So why should we earn money on sustainability? Because that's what's happening. We just raise cost price and we earn on sustainability. So that's what we should take out.
Thank you.
And also, I think that fashion brands need to build CSR strategy with the suppliers they are working with. European fashion brands mostly just putting CSR strategy, doing, okay, now we are doing that, and suppliers need to follow. They need to build this strategy with the suppliers to really understand how we can transform the business, and how we can do that like without some repercussion, like you said. I think we need to collaborate.
And also education is, again, a major aspect, because imagine if we have a full transparency in the supply chain. At the end of the day, the true question is, do we accept to have poor people in the supply chain? Yeah. And if the final consumer is answering, I'm not okay with that, exactly, then maybe it will change the whole thing. But at the moment, we can't say that the way people are buying clothes is changing anything at the moment, but we can imagine and hope that for the future it will change.
See, just one more comment, that Darwin's theory of evolution, survival of the fittest, is very good, but is not the answer to every question. There are so many grays.
Yes, thank you so much for your question.
Thank you.
We are a bit late, but if we have one last question, yes.
Hello. I have a question. What are the measures that fashion houses can take to make sure that they're sourcing from Asia and they're not using displaced people? Like the factories are not using displaced people.
Who wants to answer this?
Can you please explain your question a bit more? You mean there are factories which are using displaced people in the factory?
Yeah, like when you're sourcing from Asia, the continent, there are a lot of factories that use displaced people as workers. So what are the measures that a fashion house can take, digitally or any other way, to make sure where they're sourcing from are not using workers who are displaced?
I think it's a tricky question and like a big thing right now, and we saw that like in my company. For now, it's really difficult to ask this question, I think, except social auditing and like, yeah, except that, I don't think we have any other option.
I think this, on one side I say regulations can kill agility, but on the other side regulations are essential. I think one key point is that each government in each country is carrying their responsibility in a way that they take care of certain measures where we don't need to pull it on the shoulders of the buyer or the brand to take care of it. It's every country's own responsibility to take that. So why is the OECD regulating this and asking the brands and buyers to take care of it? It's because of the countries are not taking care of it. So I come again to the same answer I had in the beginning. We need to take our values serious and represent them in every part of the world accordingly. Then we don't need the next level to regulate it. That would be my answer.
Thank you. Can I ask the last question, please?
Yes, please, one last question. Then if you want to continue the conversation with our speakers, you have time before the next roundtable.
This question is for Textile. The goal says weaving the future, which means more of sustainable textiles and sourcing. Although I have been visiting all the 3 floors, and I've seen very few booths who actually are using sustainable textiles here. And can I know why?
The place of market platform such as Textile Apparel Sourcing Paris is also to influence, and this is what we try to do with those conversations and trying to highlight some topics such as our topic of this roundtable, but there is a very interesting new initiative named Ecology Finder on TextWorld, which highlights the sustainable products and offers on the fair, and it goes really further than what was done before. I'm talking about the trade organization. At the trade organization level, because this Ecology Finder is asking to the exhibitors to fill a form, which is then controlled by a different company named CSI, which is a certificating company. So each booth you see with the green logo Ecology Finders has filled the form and been approved by the other certificating company. So this is a first step to highlight the efforts from the exhibitors in this place. However, your point is why so few exhibitors are into it. And I don't have the answer yet, but I guess it's a question of business strategy. And at the moment, maybe it's not yet super important and it's not the priority of the exhibitors to invest into sustainability. But I'm working for this company since 2016, and I have to say that the evolution is really impressive on that precise topic. When I started here, discussion like this one, we had no one in the audience. And now, you see, you are here, you are asking questions, and we have more and more people trying to think together about how we can wave the future. And in my opinion, it's a very positive message, and that's why I continue to believe that we have to work together on those issues, even if we are not yet at our highest potential, right? So thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you so much.